Hi, everybody, and welcome back once again to another one of devCodeCamp's Alumni Spotlights. My name is Carl Peterson, devCodeCamp's social media producer. And whether you're watching this on our YouTube channel, listening to your favorite podcast platform, or just stopping by the blog, thanks so much for being here. We have yet again another one that is going to be very exciting for you. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it, starting off with the famous common two-part question. What is your name and when did you attend devCodeCamp?
So my name's Audrey Schmidt, and I attended from November 21 to February of 2022.
Excellent. And what do you currently do for a job?
So I just started my job as a software engineer at Bamboo Health. So it's great. It was a great job for me because it kind of digged into my past and let me develop my career in coding as well.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to definitely discuss your past and obviously the boot camp a little bit more specifically. First off, thank you very much for making time for this episode. I'm particularly excited for this because your story's a little bit different than any of the guests we've had ever, particularly because of what you did before devCodeCamp. And that's why it makes it so unique. So do you mind explaining just very basically, what did you do before attending devCodeCamp?
Yeah, so I was actually a pharmacist. I did quite a few years of school. I did 2 years of undergraduate pre-pharmacy studies. I went on to do 3 years of my doctorate in pharmacy at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Graduated from that in 2020 and practiced as a pharmacist for around a year and a half, both in hospital and retail settings. So I really did try to make pharmacy work, but I just got to this point where I was like, no, I don't think I can do this for the rest of my life. And luckily, devCodeCamp was there when that happened.
Sure, sure. And that's why it makes you so unique, because you left a generally speaking pretty good career, and kind of restarted from scratch. You're a doctor of pharmacy who graduated from medical college. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's a
Yes, I
that's a
have a lot of awards from it too. I did work hard when I was in school, and then yeah, I got to the workforce. It just wasn't for me.
Sure, sure. And to me, though, it does sound like at the time you had your mind pretty made up, right? But then obviously you got into that role and it wasn't exactly what you expected, it sounds like. So what was the decision that was driving behind like code? Why coding from pharmacy? That's a very big jump.
Yeah, so it was actually really great because I wasn't having a great time in my career. And one of the main things they do is say pick up a hobby, right? So I tried a bunch of different hobbies, or I would like color in my book or knit my little blanket. And then what I ended up picking up was coding and just kind of doing this, build a simple calculator app, build a simple calendar app, and just kind of following different tutorials. And then I realized like this has taken up 3, 4 hours of my nights, most nights a week. And I realized like, I just like this. Like I like doing this. What would it take for this to actually be what I do? And that's where I started all my research about how would I transition into my field.
That's great. When it comes to making a big decision in your life, specifically a career change, or even chasing a passion or doing something like going into a boot camp like devCodeCamp, there's definitely some fear attached to the unknown. I was wondering, were you nervous before officially making that decision?
So I was nervous. I was like, well, I really hope they think the doctor of pharmacy matters at least a little bit because there was like that little doubt. I was like, will I even get into the program? And then I was like, okay, I got in. I was like, can I even finish the program? And then I did that. And then I had to do the third hurdle of like, can I even get a job? And then I finished that. So like I was throughout the whole thing, it was like, oh my gosh, I guess I can go back to being a pharmacist if I really have to, but I really don't want to.
Sure. Yeah, you did have a pretty good fallback, but obviously it wouldn't have made you happy. But all things worked out. Your hard work definitely paid off. When do you recall the moment where that clarity kind of came through, where it was kind of like, all right, I got this?
Yeah, I think when we really started with Python and we incorporated the Django framework into that, and I was kind of seeing like I would say I had problem solving ability beforehand. Just naturally like going through all of that education. But this is where I really got to see like, oh my God, like I love doing this because there's more problems than you could imagine learning the new framework. Especially with a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And I noticed, especially like working in groups, that I started to become someone that people would ask, like, can you look at this? Like, can you see what's going on? Can you debug it? And that's when I kind of realized, like, okay, maybe I'm like not half bad.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely a moment of confirmation for sure. So uh, you went through traditional college. You obviously went through the boot camp. What would you say the biggest differences between the traditional and boot camp, outside the obvious of like the subject matter?
So in my traditional schooling, I don't know how many people know how pharmacy school is set up, but it was a full year of rotations, where clinical rotations basically just go out and you're a pharmacist, but you have someone watching over you. And then after that year is when you're supposed to be job ready. But that year is a very long time and it gets very repetitive once. I mean, I worked very hard in school, so I had a lot of foundations that maybe other people didn't, that they needed a whole year. But I found the year to be a bit repetitive after a while. So having this 3 months all hands on, like still feeling job ready at the end would be the biggest difference to me.
Sure, absolutely. It makes total sense. And you said you said something that kind of is a reoccurring theme with a lot of people I talk to, which is the monotony of normal like tasks that you have to do every single day. Being a developer, you don't get that a lot. I'm sure you're enjoying that big change so far.
Yes, I love it. And then I mean there's always more to do too. So I mean I am in my first couple of weeks and they gave me one story and I just kind of chewed through it because I'm very persistent too. I'm one of those people that can code for like 8 hours without getting up and without eating or drinking. And then so I just kind of chewed through the first story and they're like, wow. And then they just gave me another one today and I'm getting another one tomorrow probably because I already chewed through most of the last story. So I love that I'm not doing the same thing. Everything's a new challenge and I have more whenever I need it.
Sure. It sounds like you were made to be a developer because it sounds like you naturally have a very analytical mindset and also the perks of the job, just with the non-monotonous task and monotonous
Yeah.
task and things. That's great. So you kind of touched this on the last question, but I just wanted to bring it up again. So as someone who went through a traditional college, what was the deciding factor behind the second time around? You decided like I wanted to pursue, coding. What was the decision behind, instead of going back to a traditional college and choosing a boot camp instead?
So I did a lot of research and I could finish another college degree, I think, if I really if I really wanted to. But I was like, do I really want to? I mean, pharmacy school was a long time. It was a lot of loans. And I was like, I kind of just want to get to the workforce as quick as possible. And for myself, I believe that I was like had the tenacity to do that and to learn whatever I needed to in a shorter period of time than a 4 year CS degree.
Sure. Well, it's great that you knew yourself well enough that you could get through it, and obviously you you did.
Mhm.
So that's really exciting for you, Audrey. So there's a high chance that someone's listening or watching this right now who is in a job that is totally the opposite of a developer. I don't know if pharmacist is a complete opposite from a developer, but it's not super close. And those people may have doubts like, oh, I'm a janitor, or I work in a restaurant. There's nothing that I do that can make me a developer in my everyday task. But that's not true. There's plenty of things that we see coming through these virtual dev code camp doors, where small little things make them a really good developer. And even though a pharmacist isn't exactly like a developer, Was there anything that you picked up from being a pharmacist that was an immediate transfer over from being a good developer?
So I would say from being a pharmacist, I think what really helped me was communication, honestly, on problems, because that there's a lot of technical language out there. Being able to communicate with other people and let them know, like, yeah, I'm not following you, honestly. Um, I think that was one of the things that really helped me during school. But honestly, for all the people, no matter what job you do, it's really about who you are as a person. It doesn't matter what you do. So for me as a person, like I just loved puzzles. Like that's what I like to do. I like to do puzzles. I like to do word searches. I really like to stimulate my brain as opposed to like some other people, that's just not what they want to do. They want to maybe go take a run instead. That was not me. So I think it's just like as a person, I enjoy problem solving, and whoever enjoys problem solving, no matter what you currently do, I think development might be like a world for you.
That's great advice, and you're totally accurate. Yeah, there's plenty of puzzles to solve as a developer, so that's great. Audrey, believe it or not, we have flown through this interview, and we only have two questions left, but they're big ones. So the first of the two is so knowing what you know now, and I did mention, chasing a passion or a dream or changing a career. There's definitely nervousness that's attached to that of failure. Can I do it? How can I do? That's a human thing, right? I was wondering if somebody was watching this right now who did want to chase their passion and do something like becoming a developer. What do you think you would tell them? And I know that's a really big question, but what do you think you would tell them? Because you did it. You're a success story of someone who chased their passion.
Yeah, I think so. The first part I really did was to make sure I was set up to chase my passion. So, I mean, I did the full-time course, and I know a lot of people are thinking like that's crazy. Like you stopped working as a pharmacist, just flat out quit, and then went to the school full time. But the time I was working as a pharmacist, I was really preparing myself to get out financially mostly, but in just a lot of ways. So that's the first step, is if you are really serious about the career change, I would prepare yourself in a way that at least there's one less thing you have to be worried about when you're going through it. So I think that really did help me, like all the preparation that I put into it. And then as soon as you can do it, I would just do it, because I was maybe over prepared, because I was like kind of just sitting there. I was like, maybe I should do it. Popped on the devCodeCamp at least 50 times. And I was like, no, maybe not today, maybe tomorrow. And, in the end, it all worked out, but I do wish I did it as soon as I could have.
Sure. Yeah, that's a big question, and I know everybody's a little bit different, but you gave really good advice, and I appreciate that, because it's true. You just have to kind of do things sometimes and land on your feet if you want to land on your feet. So here's the last question of the interview already. Somehow, Audrey, if somebody was watching this who was interested in specifically becoming a developer through devCodeCamp, through your experience and kind of like what I said before, what you know now, what would you say to them?
I would say just do it. Honestly, that's the only advice I have. I mean, once you get into it, I mean, there's certain things you have to have. Like, you have to be ready to work hard. Like, this was honestly probably comparable to my pharmacy schooling, because I'm just exercising different parts of my brain. So it was just as much work in a shorter time span, maybe a little bit more at times, honestly. So I think the first step is just do it. And then just be ready. I wouldn't say it's anything to be scared about, but you are going to have late nights. You are going to have a lot of work, but you also have the great mentors and instructors there whenever something does go wrong. And if they ever have questions, they can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, because devCodeCamp did a lot for me, so I would like to pay it back. And if that's one of the ways that I can pay it back, is to talking to future students and kind of telling them my story a little bit more, telling them what I experienced through camp, which was all great. Don't really have a favorite part about it. that's another option if they do have more questions.
That's very kind of you, and especially for the specific things you said about devCodeCamp, and telling your story briefly with me today is definitely a way that uh, that you can do those things. You say repaying. Uh, you don't owe us anything as far as favors or anything, but we really appreciate you doing this. And it is a very inspiring story, Audrey. And everyone is so excited for you, especially because you are now working in the health technology field. I think that's an absolute perfect fit. That's really neat to see. So thank you so much for making time for us today and doing this.
Yes, no problem. I'm happy.
Absolutely. And thank you everybody again for either watching, listening, or reading, however you're consuming this. Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Carl Peterson, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.